not food related, but stress and low sleep and its impact on immune function. I would, must mention that as well. So really minimizing sugar, highly processed foods, and alcohol. Those are the things through the holidays that perhaps we want to keep minimal.
Sure. Can we go back? And I have a question, Caleb. If you go back to the last slide. So when you talked about what the immune system is, you've got your skin, the fat, the mucous lining, blood cells, and the microbiome, which in the stomach, right? So, and there's a lot of talk now about a healthy gut, and that has a lot to do with the immune system, correct? So, and those things, if we're lacking, because even the skin itself, and having, the things that we put on our skin, or, even having the things that we're exposed to. But if you'll go back now, Caleb, to the next slide. So not having these things, how does that directly, specifically like fat, what does that mean when you say the fat is part of our immune system?
So I'm referring to dietary fat. When we're consuming dietary fat, our body also makes cholesterol, building blocks, and cholesterol and those essential fatty acids. Those are the building blocks to things such as the steroid hormones, such as cortisol. And cortisol gets a really bad rap, but cortisol, when balanced, is anti-inflammatory. It's very supportive for health and immune function and pain. To really think about the body's capable of creating something that's equivalent to an ibuprofen or an Advil. That's cortisol. Yeah, and that is driven from fatty acids, from those healthy fats.
I love that. Yeah. Okay, those of you who are on our Zoom call, I would love to know your thoughts if you have any questions. So again, going back to this current slide that we're on, these are the things that would weaken our immune function. So the lack of vitamins, the lack of minerals, the lack of amino acids, again, the lack of fatty acids. So that last slide that said the immune function, that's the presence of fats in our diet.
Correct.
Okay. And then the lack of fiber, or stress, and low sleep. Okay. All right. I'm going to let you keep going.
So perhaps in considering stress reduction and considering that taking care of our own stress is an act of love to our loved ones, perhaps we don't have to vacuum 15 times and we can get outside and go for a walk.
I love that. Okay, any other questions or thoughts? You've got another slide, yes?
Yes, let's go to the next slide. All right, so now we can get back to how to strengthen and support our immune function. And these are not going to be, I doubt, new things to many of you. We have our heavy hitters there. We have vitamin C at the very top of the list. When we consider vitamin C and its supports on immune function, we definitely could supplement with many of these things. However, vitamin C and many of these vitamins, they are actually in a complex, meaning that when they're eaten in their whole food form, they are very much more bioavailable and capable of doing their job. So food forms are always going to be my preferred source first. And then if we feel that we're not getting adequate, then supplementation, I think, can be a wonderful tool. What's kind of interesting with vitamin C, my favorite source of vitamin C that I eat almost every day, I would say, are red bell peppers. And they surprisingly have 3 times more vitamin C than oranges.
Interesting. Yeah, we always go to oranges.
Yeah, the citrus fruit. And I love citrus fruit. But finding our favorites, ensuring that we're getting those into our day. But vitamin C may be one to consider supplementing. And before we jump any further into this list, one thing I wanted to kind of bring up as well is being able to identify when our immune system is starting to to be compromised. So I don't know how you guys notice that or if you pay attention to that, but at our house, like if we start feeling a tickle in our throat, my kids know, start getting on the vitamins, get off of the sugar. And I love that they do that on their own. Not that I could make them do anything at this point.
Right.
But when they are doing things, that is evidence to me that they have had enough experience with the effects of removing what's compromising and adding in what's going to help them fight that off and not actually get sick.
So do they go straight to like a multivitamin or specifically some of these that you have listed?
So specifically some of these, and I would love in the chat for people to add in the tips and tricks that have been passed down. I oftentimes find that that's where we get some of the best strategies for health, is it's been passed down through generations. So at our house, it's the omission of sugar and fast food. And then specifically at our house, and we'll get through all of these, but we do garlic, we do zinc, and we do vitamin C. We have a colloidal silver spray. So we're going to kind of go through essentially all of these here. So vitamin C, of course, top of the list. Of vitamin D. Vitamin D is crucial for immune function. It is actually considered an immune modulator, meaning it actually controls the immune system, which we don't often think about vitamin D in that way. So we can get a small amount of vitamin D from some food sources, but ultimately that means either supplementation or good old sunshine.
Good old sunshine. It's a good thing that you live in St. George.
Such a good thing. So vitamin D, crucial. Going on to zinc would be next. And zinc is crucial and interesting for a few different reasons. One of the reasons that it's really important to get zinc regularly is because the body has a limited capacity to store various vitamins and minerals. So zinc would be the number one trace mineral to ensure that we're getting. My favorite food source for zinc is pumpkin seeds.
That's
Right?
Perfect.
Yeah. It is kind of interesting how with this time of year, those are the
things
foods
we need.
Yeah, we get oranges coming into season. Yeah, pumpkin seeds from the fall harvest. Yeah, it's kind of interesting. So garlic. Garlic, hands down, has been the most researched to be the most potent to be antifungal, antimicrobial, antibacterial, to kill mold, and wrote them down so I don't have to remember all of them, and bacteria. So it's killing virus, yeast, fungus, mold, and bacteria. So that's a go-to at our house.
And how do you?
We do it in all the ways. So I love to add garlic to food.
All your foods, okay.
We do have garlic capsules, and some people will actually crush a clove of garlic and just swallow it. I am not that brave.
Never done that.
I'm sure it's quite amazing. Colloidal silver is just silver particles that are actually suspended in water. We like to do that as a spray. Some people actually do that as a nasal kind of rinse, and it essentially starves out the oxygen of various pathogens. And so it's been used for a very long time.
So far, these are all individually sourced, not like a multivitamin would cover the majority of these, or.
You know, I think a good multivitamin could provide all of these things. I think the number one thing is on a daily basis to ensure we're getting them through food sources. And then I just find when I get that tickle in my throat, that's when I'm upping all of these things.
Okay.
Yeah, specifically.
I love some of the comments we had. I boil lemons and drink that all day with local honey when I feel like I'm getting sick.
What a wonderful idea.
So what with the lemons?
Well, lemon, many things, but we're going to be back getting high vitamin C. Lemons are going to be helping with the pH of the stomach, which when the stomach pH is correct, that's going to be helping to ward off any pathogens coming via our food and correct the pH of the entire digestive tract. So it would be And I'm sure there's many others. That's kind of one of the fun and interesting things is we think we know a lot right now, but we're learning
So
more
much.
and more.
And there's a lot about it, and you haven't talked yet about that. Also said, I also take something Eco, which is a probiotic you can buy, or a fire cider.
Fire cider. You
We
might have to
take
tell us about fire cider.
10,000 units of vitamin D all winter and 8,000 during the summer.
Okay.
Yeah,
Wonderful.
smart. Yeah, good.
Really wonderful.
So what about the fermented foods?
Yeah. So with fermented, so we're back to the microbiome, the gut bacteria. So with our fermented foods, one of the other highest sources of vitamin C is actually sauerkraut. And so I keep sauerkraut in my fridge all the time because I'm kind of hitting both. I'm getting high vitamin C and I'm getting those naturally fermented foods, which help with the good bacteria to the gut. Why I prefer a food source of fermentation versus probiotics is our bacterial load is diverse. And so when it's from a food source, that is also diverse versus billions of a particular strain. So that's my preferred source is from naturally fermented foods.
And I know the sauerkraut is great. Anything else?
So in my fridge, I have sauerkraut, I have kimchi, I have naturally fermented yogurt, kefir, and kombucha. We could have, you guys mention some others if you have some others that you
So
like.
the question was, I'm curious about sauerkraut. Are there better options than others? And what do I look for? And how much should I eat to get a benefit?
Really good question. So I look for unpasteurized because that's really what we're looking for is the live bacteria. And so Wild is a brand that I use, I believe, for both the sauerkraut and the kimchi.
Is that something you can order?
You can just get it at
most
at
grocery
Costco
stores?
even.
Wild?
Yeah, I think it's called Wild.
Wild.
Okay. I could look that up and double check that. I would recommend 2 servings, which 1 serving is 2 tablespoons. It's not that much, but there's some really interesting research that's just come out on if a person is taking 2 servings of a fermented food and its impacts. I could get that data, but
Probably similar to like the apple cider vinegar, like the benefits.
no, kind of addressing different parts of the digestive tract. Apple cider vinegar, we're more correcting pH of the stomach to break down protein into amino acid, which is vitally important. And then also killing off any bacteria from food as well when the stomach pH is correct.
So how do you just eat the sauerkraut plain?
I do, but I like it. And I like kimchi and I like kefir.
And you eat the kimchi
I just
plain?
eat it. Yeah.
Okay.
I
Anybody
don't
else
mind.
love to just eat it? The sauerkraut or the kimchi?
Nobody else?
No. A few head nods. Okay. Do your kids just eat it?
No.
Okay.
They do not.
Okay. Yeah, I was gonna say I like the taste of sauerkraut, but okay. So other than sunshine, what are good food sources for vitamin D?
That's a tricky one. And I will say I don't believe you can get adequate vitamin D from food sources, but there is vitamin D in pasture raised egg yolks. There is vitamin D in some seafood. There is vitamin D in cod liver oil. So kind of obscure, and really you'd probably need to eat too high of quantities to even try
to get it.
Yeah.
The cod liver, that was my grandma.
Yeah.
It was like have that for everything.
Yeah.
Wasn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, so fire cider is mostly apple cider vinegar. So it's the probiotics, but you can add lemons, spices, hot peppers, garlic, ginger, horseradish. I love that, etc. I learned how to make it when I took a class taught by a nutritionist who was also a chef, and the class was for boosting your immune system. It's really good. I'll post, and she's going to post the recipe in the home group. Awesome.
Wonderful.
Thank you, Kari.
I'll look for that. That looks great.
But you have to like apple cider vinegar. That's a tough one for some people. And I have heard that a lot, like with the kimchi, there's like a lot of drinks that people are putting together, and
Do you mean kombucha?
Yes,
Yeah,
kombucha.
yeah.
Yes, thank you. Yeah. Is that a lot of the same benefits?
Yeah.
Okay. Fermented is different than pickled, correct?
Correct. So yes, you would want to look for a product that is naturally fermented, and that is a pickling process. You do get to a similar result. Like pickles can be live, have naturally occurring bacteria, but when they're done commercially and then they're pasteurized, and they're pickled in a different format, a different form, that wouldn't be getting the same benefit of the probiotics, because that process of the fermentation where the bacteria is eating the sugar in the food, that is that fermentation process. It's eating the sugar and converting that into the beneficial bacteria.
Okay. That makes sense. Well, tell us a little bit about the fiber and the prebiotics.
Yeah. So the fermented foods are our probiotics. The fiber are the prebiotics. So we hear a lot about incorporating prebiotics and probiotics. So prebiotics, again, when we break words down, pre just meaning before, it's the food source for the microbiome, for the bacteria. So fiber in particular, fiber is actually the food source for the beneficial bacteria. The bacteria, as it consumes the fiber, that converts into small chain fatty acids and various vitamins and helps feed the beneficial bacteria. So in talking about the microbiome and getting the balance that we want, starving out bad bacteria would be omitting sugars and refined carbohydrates and adding in those high fiber foods to feed the good bacteria and get that balance where we're looking.
So it's there's a lot of opinions out there about doing like a 3-day cleanse or whatever, even a 1-day cleanse. Would that be like, if you do feel something coming on, it's probably a good idea to like do somewhat of a cleanse of all of the bad, at least eliminate them, and then just really add in a lot.
Yeah, I think that's one way you could look at it, as a cleanse. I think that's one way you could look at it. Definitely.
Well, definitely my favorite is the very last thing you have on there is movement and sunshine. I love that. And I love that it just feels good overall. Okay, any other questions? Such great questions, you guys, and comments. Do we have
There's one other than sunshine. What are some good vitamin D sources?
Oh, and she did talk about that.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Very, very limited from food sources. But
Right.
Yeah.
So anything that you'd recommend as a zinc supplement?
Zinc.
So let's see. So zinc, those are going to be, so I mentioned pumpkin seeds are my favorite, but oysters, pasture, I know, same way with oysters. That's why I went to pumpkin seeds.
Yeah.
Pasture raised red meat is high in zinc, specifically things we don't like liver. Liver, that's very bioavailable vitamin A and zinc. Seafood and fish is also high in zinc. Pumpkin seeds for me.
Pumpkin seeds for me too. I love that. It's Thanksgiving. There's going to be some pumpkin seeds available. That's awesome. Yeah. Okay, there's another. If fermented is good for you and alcohol is fermented, why is alcohol not good for your immune system?
Wow. This is the same question my dad keeps asking. And it's a fair question. I think how I would answer that is traditionally made beers and wines and spirits were made differently than they are today, as most things, including a lot of our dairy products, etc. So it is a fair question. Who asked that question?
That was Kari, yes. And she's got good questions.
I like your question, Kari.
Yes, that is a great question.
And it is a fair and good question.
So are there cleaner alcohols than others?
There are, yes, there are. So I like to buy organic when I do. And in the wine category, there's a category of something called a dry farmed wine that is much lower in sulfates and is not, I don't think necessarily technically organic, but it doesn't have the pesticides and it's farmed differently. And so that has a lesser impact on immune function. Anything over about 1 drink a day is going to start taxing the liver and really diverting the liver from its other jobs and responsibilities. So as I always tend to say, I think we kind of have to choose our poison. So I find it can't be sugar and alcohol. It kind of could be either or, and they're having a relatively similar effect.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I love that, more than 1 a day, there's an effect. Caleb, I think she said as we're moving, our sound cuts in and out. Can we try turning this off and see if we
That relates to this.
still, it says as we move, our audio cuts out a bit here and there.
I'll work on that.
Yeah, just good to know. Thank you. And hopefully it's not too hard to hear and listen. Well, I'm going to let Melissa wrap up and just again stress anything she wants to stress and leave us with, and then we'll go ahead and close our live.
Thank you, Nat. No, I loved the feedback there. I'm excited for the apple cider concoction. That sounds really interesting. The fire cider. That sounds really interesting.
Yeah, I don't know what
fun.
fire cider is.
We're gonna find out. And
So
it's
what is
probably
fire
magic.
cider?
Well, she did explain it. She's gonna post the
Okay.
recipe, but it sounds
So the
fun.
fire cider is that recipe, and that makes fire cider.
Yeah, with garlic and ginger and peppers. I bet that is amazing.
Wow,
So I'm
yeah.
excited to see that.
Okay.
So no, as always, I love to see the comments, and I get so much from coming and having these conversations and hearing what other people are doing. And so wonderful to connect with all of you. And I wish everyone a healthy holiday season. And we'll talk about some new fun stuff next time.
Awesome. I do. I think I love that you chose this topic for coming into the holidays, because we are so lucky to be able to be around everybody. And I love the approach of it's a responsible thing to take care of our own health for our loved ones. And then also just being aware of how to support our own immune system, because it's been a really big, source of stress for a lot of people the last couple of years.
Absolutely.
So we can definitely take it into our, as much as we do as best that we can with the things that we have. So thank you so much. We're going to go ahead and close the live, and then we'll go over to our Zoom call. I don't know if that sound had anything